Hi friends, what's up? Today we're getting a little crafty with making this DIY bookmark with watercolor paint and white gouache. It's beginner friendly, yet the result is going to be super fancy and gorgeous. Before we jump right in, I need to mention some supplies you'll need to prepare for today's project. I have my 140-pound cold-pressed Canson watercolor paper. Tear one paper off from the sketchbook. Other supplies include a pair of scissors, a ruler, a pencil, a ribbon, a hole puncher, as well as our usual watercolor supplies. The thing we need to do before starting the illustration is to cut this paper into the size of our bookmark. So you can see I'm just marking out how big I want my bookmark to be. My card is about 17 by 8 centimeters, but you can always customize your bookmark, including its size to suit your preference. To create a very simple shape of the feather, start by drawing a curvy line. Here my line is curved to the left. Then sketch another line right next to it to create the stick of the feather. Just mind the gap between both lines. It shouldn't be too wide. Now to create the hair of the feather, drag a rather curvy line 2 centimeters away from the middle part while also following the shape of the main curve. Remember to leave an empty space on the bottom part. Also, as you can see here, I'm adding some gaps inside the feather. Done with the sketch, let's get going with the painting stage. I'm keeping the color scheme quite simple here. Among the 24 colors that I have, only violet, crimson, and ultramarine will be used. But before applying the actual paint, let's start by applying a thin layer of clean water and distribute it inside the first half of the left hair feather. In this step, I want to show you guys how to apply what's called the wet-on-wet watercolor technique. Now mix your color. Mine is a combination of violet, a bit of crimson, and also a little water. But you can adjust your mixture to make any color you want. Start painting from the edges of the hair feather because we want to keep those parts darker than the rest. One thing that I want to point out is, since we're using the wet-on-wet technique, the paint spreads out and creates such a distinct effect, yet it stays inside the watery area. By this time, you can add another hue with a similar color scheme. Mine is violet. Melt the color together to create a beautiful transition. If you notice that some areas look a little bit pale, you can always repaint it with more solid colors. The technique for the rest of the feather is practically the same. First is the application of water and then color. We're going to add variety by using different colors. I'm using mainly violet, but then I blend a little bit of crimson into the mixture, or add ultramarine so that the violet turns to a cooler tone, or even apply just a straight crimson. And now we enter the third step. After observing this work for quite some time, I decided that we need to darken up a little bit, particularly some of the areas near the edges and the middle part closer to the feather stick. I'm switching my brush to a smaller one because you want the edges of your hair feather to be really fine like real feathers are. Then load it up with the same color, only this time add less water so that you'll get a darker tone. To add texture, use the tip of your brush and start dragging some fine lines following the shape of the feather. Finished with the hair feather, it's time for us to polish up even further by painting these little wavy feathers with the same color we used previously. Some face upwards, some face downwards. Okay, so now before we go on to add a layer of white gouache, I'm just gonna paint 2 fine lines upon the stick of the feather, kind of following the shape but leaving the middle part empty. After you're done, wait a few minutes to let the paint dry. Once they've dried completely, we're gonna draw in white leaves by mixing a bit of water into white gouache paint. Just a little bit to help the paint spread, because if you add too much water, I'm afraid that the white paint will no longer be opaque, and then it won't create that dramatic effect we're looking for. The pattern that I aim for is basically an assortment of random wide leaves. Some are thinner, some are bulkier, and some are just the outlines. I'm placing them unstructured as well, so that I could achieve an effect of variety. I also do this little dotting on the top of the feather, which is great for filling up the space with a sparkly effect. Now let's do the other side. And you've just nailed the illustration. Now, last but not least, we just need to punch the hole on the bookmark, and then to add the ribbon, just make a little loop. Put the loop through the hole, then pull the ends through that loop so you get a nice little ribbon tie there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you'll give this a try. Post and tag your results on Instagram to get featured on our social media. Bye guys, and have a great weekend.